Hello and welcome to the Seer Show with the Seer Magazine. This is your host, Nick Vaidya. Yoga is a lot more than breathing and stretching exercises. Some say it's a way of life, but I think that is misleading. I think it's a way to better life. Its effects can be deeply transformational. It improves who you are and not forces you into becoming any particular stereotype. You could be a better cowboy, a pro wrestler, a musician, or just about anybody. You do not have to become the stereotypical yogi. Business executives need to note amongst the many benefits of yoga are stress management, clarity of thinking, improved decision making, better interpersonal skills, and vastly improved stamina. Today we will explore yoga and its benefits with Vish Iyer, who is a yoga master and author of the best-selling book Yoga Plus Love. Vish hails from a 7,000-year-old lineage of Vedic yoga masters. He was supposed to be a software consultant with a PhD who practiced yoga in his spare time, but instead he turned into yoga as a profession. As one of the world's foremost leading yoga media experts and thought leaders, he's further recognized as a combination of Deepak Chopra and Tony Robbins. So ladies and gentlemen, here's Vish Iyer for you. Vish, welcome to the Seer Show. I really appreciate you taking out the time.
I'm honored that you would call me. Thank you. Thanks for having me.
That's nice of you. But I've heard you've got a reputation in the West Coast community, in the yoga community, and I really like what you do. You've also, I hate to call it marketing spin, but the truth is you need to sell people that which they're willing to accept, and that is the concept in Vedas as well that Bhagwan Krishna talks about in the second and third chapters, that people, when they're ready to listen, they will come to you, and you can only give the message to them in a way that they're willing to accept. Otherwise, it doesn't matter.
Yes, absolutely.
So I commend you on doing the Bhagwan Shri Krishna thing of putting the message in a manner that the people are willing to accept. Love is something.
I like it. I like how you put it.
Yeah, well, people want to talk about love. People want to talk about relationships. People want to talk about money. People want to talk about cars, and that's what interests them. If it doesn't interest them, the message is lost even before you begin.
Yes. But also, is it okay if I?
Sure, please. We'll have a conversation.
Yeah, but it's also it's my personal interest also, because not everybody's interested in God or higher consciousness, or not everybody interested in Ananda. We are living in this world, and everybody, I mean, you look at probably 95% are looking at a grahastha household life. They're looking for the ideal partner. It's a fundamental need which is placed by nature inside us. And what's interesting is very few masters have really spoken about how to use yoga or meditation to solve practical problems of life. I coach a lot of CEOs, I coach doctors, I coach models, I coach top-notch actors in the entertainment industry. And everybody is dealing with regular life problems. And it's really important. And Atharva Veda is one of those texts which has, in a very mystical way, in a very cryptic way, has given certain formulas. It's got medicinal stuff, and it's got certain affirmations, certain mantras which you can practice to attract that ideal mate. And only one master, Yogananda, has explained it in detail.
You're talking about Paramahansa Yogananda, right?
Yes, and I'm a disciple of Paramahansa Yogananda. Okay.
Yeah.
And that's what I practiced, and it worked for me, because exactly as it said, Yogananda says that if you are sincere, in the 6th month, you will find your soulmate. That's exactly what he says.
Really? That is interesting.
Yes. And he distilled it from the Atharva Veda himself. And I'm looking at the text in Atharva Veda. I'm not able to make out what he has said. Just like he is distilled out of, Swalpamapasya dharmasya trayate mahatobayat. Right? That's one of the phrases in the Gita. And Yogananda said that's referring to Kriya Yoga. And he's taking stuff out of Patanjali Yoga, Swasa Praswasa Gati, Yoga Sutra, Swasa Praswasa Gati, Vishveda Pranayama. So he's able to, because he's a master. And we need these in-betweens, just like a mentor who can explain all these cryptic, mystical verses into modern practical application. Since I practiced, it worked for me exactly at the 6th month.
This is very interesting. I'm glad now we have found exactly what we want to discuss.
Awesome, right?
And that's really interesting because we've talked about yoga in a very generic sense from
Yes.
health perspective,
Yes.
as it interests people. Now, there's another group of people that is interested in the spiritual side of it, the self-realization, the spiritual growth,
Right.
global consciousness.
Right.
And we are not addressing them because they already know the basics of yoga. So I don't think we want to address them. But to your point, the grahastha, which is one of the 4 ashram according to the Indian system, where you break down life into 4 components and say, at a certain component, you need to, or not need to, but necessarily people tend to develop themselves and become productive in the society. They typically get married, procreate, and serve the next generation. That's the purpose of the grahastha ashram, as you just mentioned. And I'm just elucidating because we never got a chance to say that.
Right.
And I'm sure you can say it a lot better than I can. But so the grahastha is the period in which a person becomes productive, reproduces, and contributes to the society, to the functioning of the society. And this is the toughest time, because in the previous ashram, and I forget the term, which is the first ashram, brahmacharya ashram, which is basically you are learning and growing and not engaging as an individual, accepting in the learning and growth. So what happens is you're dependent on others. You are really, as a brahmacharya ashram, you're not contributing. You're still growing yourself to become productive. And beyond the grahastha is an ashram or set 2 ashrams where you've already produced and created enough wealth for yourself and the society, and then you continue to pass on. So the basic problem of mankind is, how do I manage my grahastha ashram? How do I become productive? How do I make money? How do I contribute to the society? And most people don't even go to the contribution part. They're just stuck with, how do I make more money? How do I attract a life partner or whatever else they're looking for? Those are the 2 basic things.
Exactly. Yeah. You hit the... it's very important to understand that it's great, fascinating conversation. I already love it. Yeah, just like what Drucker on management is saying. One of his styles is you set the goal first, and once you set the goal, then you can align the team accordingly.
Right.
And it's very important to understand that you mentioned the grahastha, but people don't know how to find that person and what is the purpose of marriage, what's the purpose of love, why marry at all. And nobody asks these existential basic questions. Since they don't ask these questions, they never find the answer, and they just work through instinct. And that is why
this is extraordinary what you just said. And let me also interject. And I know I'm here to interview and not to give my wisdom, but I think I will help elucidate this point a little bit further. I am a scuba diver. I also do skydiving and other stuff. But one thing in scuba diving is that you learn very quickly: don't trust your instincts. They will get you killed, because your instincts are, in that environment, it's unnatural. You're not supposed to be there. So whatever your instinct is telling you is going to be wrong. And you need to learn quickly. If you're not going to question and learn how to do that, you will get yourself killed. Same thing goes with entrepreneurs and business people. People get into business or entrepreneurship for various reasons. They are oftentimes ill-prepared for it, and they end up making mistakes or don't ask questions. And say, what am I supposed to do? You had no questions. You just jumped into it, lock, stock, and barrel, and hope to find success.
Right. And that is the beauty of the Indian system, because if you look at the Gita, it starts with a question. What did they do, Sanjaya? And if you look at the Yoga Vashishta, the concept of savichara, self-questioning. And if you look at Patanjali Yoga Sutra, Swadhyaya, it's all about the question. Once you ask the right question, the right answer comes. And that's a very important point. And then the second point and the second point is, we need to have a goal, and we need to understand what the purpose is of love. And once we understand what the purpose of love and marriage and soulmate is that person who takes you quickest to your own soul or realization of your own spirit. And that person, there's really no concept of soulmate, it's only soul helpmate. And in the Mahabharata, there's a concept of Atma Mitra. And even Rama, when he saw Sita, he instantly recognized her. So we know that there is this purpose for marriage, there is a purpose for love, there is a purpose of why we came on earth. It is to, of course, find self-actualization, self-realization, however you want to call it. But in this process, in this journey, we need a helper. And that person is that ideal soul helpmate.
Now, we can go into real details, and I would love to do that in this one, because you know what? I believe there's a purpose. We may not know exactly what it is, but the questioning is one of the important purposes of human existence with an intellect. The rest of the species don't have that luxury or the divine gift. So what happens is, without going into the spirituality, there's a purpose. We can go into the depth of love or finding whatever else, but there is interconnectedness amongst us. That's one of the of yoga. And what I wanted to get in is a series of questions answered. The point you raised about questioning, that's very fundamental. And in our scriptures, we have things like swabhav, swadharma. You don't know any of these things. You are supposed to question and take it out of yourself. In other words, unlike the education system currently in existence, where they stuff you with stuff, you're supposed to actually, education means gives you tool to take out what you came with to earth.
Absolutely.
And so, having said that, you're saying that yoga helps you answer these questions, helps you progress in a way, growing spiritually, and you can't have spiritual growth unless you have a full tummy and you are stressed, not less, but under controlled stress, and you are able to, in the Maslow's hierarchy of needs sort of way, you can touch upon those big things only if you have the basics met.
Absolutely.
And the yoga system actually helps you meet the basics as well as go to the next level. Is that what you're saying?
Yes. I'm saying yoga was discovered for holistic development of mankind. And what is that? When you address a man, how is a man made? A structure of a man is threefold, according to the yoga system. There's a physical body, then there's a mental, emotional body, and then there's a spiritual body. And if you either feed or grow either of those ones, three layers, at the expense of the other, you're not going to be happy. And that's the fundamental driver of this whole concept. And
so you're saying Michael Jackson focused on two parts, or maybe even one part, I don't know which one, but he skipped the third one.
Yes, and a lot of people, and even if you look at people who practice a lot of yoga, they're tuned to the physical, and they don't understand how to grow the mind or how to grow the spirit.
And now sometimes if you're not really growing the mind, the yoga will really not help you enough, because
you're going to hit a plateau. You're going to hit a plateau.
You hit a plateau. And also, if you are really, you can't just meditate your way through growth. You need to also have the jnana. If you don't have an understanding, then the meditation will be stifled. It will not give you what you need.
Yes. You're hitting some awesome points here. Yeah. but what's interesting is we are fundamentally programmed for evolution. We are fundamentally programmed for growth, whether we want it or not. And so people who ask the right questions are just helping themselves in the natural progress of the evolution. And the only thing they're controlling is the speed of evolution.
Interesting. So tell me something, Vish, then. It's a difficult concept. I mean, this is the basic level of understanding to say yoga is a holistic system of living and growing. That's the shortest form of description I can give. And I'm sure people who will give a better description, but that's not entirely wrong. Given that, how do I make my jump from this understanding, which sounds like reasonable? I mean, you're addressing my physical, my mental, my spiritual needs. I'm probably growing. But how does it jump me and say, okay, I buy into this, but how will it help me find money? How will it help me find a soulmate?
Right. Okay. So, we'll address the fundamental purpose of yoga. What yoga is saying is we came from joy. There is programmed joy consciousness already inside, and we have forgotten about it. And this process of yoga just helps us retrace our steps back. Because if we didn't have joy inside programmed, we wouldn't be doing, whether it's money or a relationship. Why are we doing it? Because we get joy out of it. If we didn't get joy out of it, I'm not going to do it.
Right.
So that means there is a fundamental at the DNA level, at the quantum level.
Are you saying because I look at my 3-year-old is a perfect example, for example, that, she's happy. When she's sad, she's sad, but she's happy. Most of the time, she's just being the way she is.
Yes. Yes. So our driver is joy. Anything we do, whether it's we are looking for money, looking for soulmate, the fundamental driver is joy. If we don't, and that's why the mesolimbic pathway and the dopamine in the brain, it's a reward mechanism. We are built on reward. Okay. Now, yoga masters developed specific tools for each and every, for example, to find a soulmate. Okay, that's my specialty, find love. So I'm going to focus on how yoga is, and so that we'll just set it up with one more point, what yoga is. Yoga in the West fundamentally has been focused just on what we call as hatha. The moment you say yoga is from the word yuj in Sanskrit, which means yoking or joining together. And so I just want to help the viewers, when you hear yoga, think of yoga as a whole pie or a whole pizza. And one slice of the pizza is the physical, which is just wellness, stress-free existence. But there are 7 more slices to it. And for the holistic development, which is for your own good, so that you can enjoy life at the physical, mental, and spiritual level, you need to do all 8. All right.
Okay.
And okay, now for relationship, how does it work in terms of relationship? Okay, we know that when 2 people meet, the chemistry is great or the chemistry is not great. People say, hey, that's awesome chemistry. What yoga is saying is, behind chemistry is energy. And the quality of this energy is going to determine the quality of relationships you're going to attract and how long you keep that relationship, whether it's business or a romantic relationship.
Yeah, love need not be essentially confined to romantic or sexual relationship. It can be attracting people.
Yes, and it all depends on the quality of this energy. And this energy in Sanskrit is called Prana. And it's the mother energy of magnetism. It's the mother energy of electricity. In Sanskrit, there's a verse called Sarvam Pranamaya, meaning everything is made of prana. So the entire humanity is on a scale of prana. A Yogananda or a Christ or a Buddha or the highest scale of prana. They have so much, there's this thing they call 16 knots of prana. When you're in depression, where you have very low prana. So this is the scale. So entire yoga tools of meditation, pranayama, hatha yoga, right eating, right living, doing the work you love to do, all increase prana. And once you increase prana, you will be happy, you'll be fulfilled. This is the fundamental.
Wow. This is awesome. This is great. So pranayama is essentially exercise to increase your prana, for example.
Absolutely. It's a regulation, gaining control. A lot of people mistake pranayama to be breathing exercise. No, breath is not prana. Breath is a bridge to prana. It's once you understand breathing, you gain control slowly over prana so that you can regulate prana. And this is it. That's it. So now, okay, we know that all thoughts have manifesting power. Okay, we thought of meeting today and hey, we met. According to yoga, every thought has manifesting power. Every thought, irrespective. Now, but a lot of people's thoughts don't work out. And that's what the movie The Secret talk a lot about, law of manifestation, which we know. All right. But it's not working out because an average psychologist saying an average human being has an average of 40 to 70,000 subconscious thoughts per day. It's a mess. So the universal abundance or higher consciousness, we don't know what's got to manifest. We don't want all of them manifesting.
Right.
So we need to slow down the process, our mental processes, our thoughts, so that we can focus on one intention. Like you said, how does it help in focusing money? You ask any businessman, and you're a businessman, fundamental requirement is concentration.
Yes.
Concentration, fearlessness, a right judgment, right decisions, all these things. But how are you going to do that? Some people are just naturally inclined. They have a process. But there is a conscious process too. There's a conscious process to meditate and slow your thoughts down so that you can be a better judge, so that you can make a better decision. Everything comes to the decision, right? It's about that decision-making ability.
And you know, I wanted to give this example, which I often give to people for certain situations. You know, when you are in a state of agitation, you are unable to use your resources effectively. It's like this. If you walk on a 3-inch wide beam sitting on the ground from, you know, place A to place B, most people will not have any problem. And let's say it's 6 inches, not 3, you can walk on it. It's like a drunkard's test sort of thing. Now place the same beam 13 stories high between 2 buildings. I don't know anybody would do it unless you're trained to do it. Why? Because your mind just freezes. It's not operational. And in a certain sense, what you're saying is that we are at any given point in time in a certain state of agitation. We may not realize it. It's like fish living in water. Fish doesn't know there is water because like, they don't know there is anything else besides water. Right? In that same way, most of the time we have a certain threshold of agitation. We recognize when it goes too much beyond that. But some people live in a higher agitated state. Some people in a lower agitated state.
Yes.
Very simple to say. People with lower agitated states will perform better than others.
Absolutely. Because even if you take elite athletes or Marines or Navy SEAL, and if you test their heart rate, it's pretty low. Sometimes it's in the 30s per minute. And there are certain EEG tests performed on meditators, long-time meditators, and you, as you know, is it okay if I get a little bit into the science of?
Yeah, sure, absolutely. Yeah,
okay. Yeah, there was a little bit of research done on monks and TM. What they found out was through the EEG, or functional magnetic resonance imaging, that after meditation, if there is any trauma, any sort of pain or agitation, that trauma gets lodged in the amygdala. And the amygdala is the reptilian brain, what we got from our reptilian ancestors. And it's also the place of fight or flight. Now we need to have an opposite response to the amygdala, reaction of the amygdala. So we need to build new neurons in the prefrontal cortex right here. And why the prefrontal cortex? Because the prefrontal cortex is called the CEO of the brain. And you want to live there so that you feel empowered. And how are you going to do that? You can do it physiologically. It's not a psychology woo-woo thing or a spiritual woo-woo. Through meditation, through breathing exercises, we move oxygen or blood flow away from the amygdala into meditation. In as little as 6 weeks, we can see an increase of gray matter in the prefrontal cortex. That's number one. Yeah, and then immediate.
No, this is great. In fact, you know, I've looked at some research from the TM side, and it is credible research. It's not the research that's promoted by a certain organization. It's published in peer-reviewed, high-quality journals, and it is indisputable that yoga exercises, meditation, pranayama, they make a massive difference. Not just a difference, but a massive difference in people's lifestyles. It's just that people don't know about it. And when you talk about the blood flow and the change, that we as individuals are thinking have the power to change the chemicals in the brain structures.
Yes.
Just as much as the brain structures have the power to change your attitudes and beliefs. But it's a cyclical thing. You can control it. We need some help sometimes. From the masters or medicine sometimes even. But you can get to that state of better control, including the fact that you can control where your neurons build, which part of the brain, what do they focus on. And that's all through these exercises that you're talking about.
And that's why, and it's important to know that yoga encompasses the hatha, pranayama, and meditation. So when we say yoga, it means all these things at one go. And that's the point which when I speak abroad or in America, people don't understand that. When I say yoga, hey, which yoga asana should I get into to find love? I get asked this. this question, this question all the time.
Funny thing is, it's not magic. It's not magic. It's just that science is not something that makes things happen. Science is an explanation of why things happen.
Yes.
So yoga is not science. Yoga is yoga. There is a science that will explain why it works. And now we are only getting into the explanation part. Somehow the yogis had intuitively understood what we are now trying to understand scientifically.
Yeah, because well, in the Upanishads it said ekam sad bahuda vadanti, meaning one exists, and that one became many, and that many became one. And Schrodinger was inspired by the Vedanta, and he studied that. And Schrodinger and Heisenberg or David Bohm or Bell.
Interesting.
Bell, who
I did not know.
Yeah, and I have
the duality of nature, the physics thing where you talk about.
Yeah, because and like Bell just completely disproved what Einstein said. Einstein said there is no particle on this planet which is faster than light. That's what he said. And he said, so that defines the law of causality, meaning, and causality is local, meaning if I drop a computer, all the fragments of the computer are just going to fall here. What Bell proved was Bell's theorem, which sort of revolutionized this whole quantum thinking, is he said, if you take a photon, which were two photons, which were joined together at one time, and then you place the two photons on two corners of the universe, whatever, let's say you do something to photon A, either you mess with the momentum or location, it'll be the same reaction for photon B at an infinitely different place.
Interesting. I have no idea about this one.
Yes.
But doesn't it we could get into the causality of it, but doesn't it kind of disproves the causality?
Yes, exactly. Idea? Exactly. It disproves the causality. Exactly. That's what Einstein was incorrect, because he said nothing can be instant. There is no instant universe. So now this is talking to the uncertainty principle of Heisenberg, where we are all just potential. We all live as potential, and only at the collapse of the wave equation through the double slit experiment, they proven what we look at as matter is really not matter. It's an illusion.
Now, by the way, Vish, what is your background in education?
Where can I start? I have degrees in 4 fields. My undergrad is in biology, and I actually came to do a PhD in genetics at Indiana. And I spent 1 year in a lab studying molecular biology or steroid-regulated gene expression. But then after spending 1 year in the lab, I found that that's not my calling. That I had sort of a spiritual experience, which revealed my future to me. And I'm from a very nerdy family. My dad is a professor of engineering, and I had this experience to reveal my future, where it said that I have to be in the media.
Wow.
And to media to inspire this sort of Sanskrit Indian content and inspire people to meditate. That's my purpose. But to get to that point, it took me many years, because then I had to go get a couple of master's degrees. So to come to a point, I have an undergrad in biology, another degree in French. Then I have a master's in information systems and another master's in business. Then I started started a third master's in computational science, but I quit that in the middle. But I study a lot in science, because I'm going to be writing a paper on based on my research of love. Like, for example, let's say that when you fall in love, and it's a beautiful feeling, right? And when you're with them, you just know it. You ask people in love, how do I know I'm in love? And you ask, and you're married, when you're in love, you just know it. There's no science needs to prove to you you're in love. Hey, scientists after 10 years of research found, hey, this guy's in love.
My doctoral work was in statistics, and I often used to say the same thing. You don't need statistical tests to prove that a 6-year-old is shorter than a 16-year-old.
Exactly.
You don't need to do that.
Exactly. That's why we use buddhi, the higher intelligence, too.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I think.
So what I'm questioning, it's not a research, because what I do, the type of work I do, is not science is too in the nascent. The neuroscience is too elementary right now. We don't have the vocabulary to explain some of the deep spiritual states, or even intuition, or sixth sense, or even how people make decisions. We don't know that yet. What's the driver? What consciousness? What wave? We don't know. We're just barely scratching the surface.
In fact, you know, I have heard this. I don't know how far it's true, but that they found vestiges of the brain cells in the heart.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
Which sort of implies that there is a intuitive way of knowing things that could be called premonition or whatever you call it. But
yes, and
it's a way to know things.
Absolutely, and I'll get to the biology of it, because the vagus nerve, which is part of the parasympathetic nervous system, and any yogi, when they did the research, even Richard, I forget his name, Richard Furman of Columbia University of Medicine. I'll send you the article where he found that great yogis had power over their vagus nerve. That's it. And the vagus nerve is what it synapses into our heart, into the SA node, which is the pacemaker of the heart. And as you stimulate through meditation, through pranayama, we can stimulate the vagus nerve, and that controls and reduces the heart rate. And once it controls and reduces the heart rate, there's a negative loop going to the hypothalamus, and your stress comes down. Yes, wow. So yes, there's a lot of brain in the heart. Okay, so but then let me come to my questions. I'm writing a paper on just to create questions. I'm not proving anything. Is it possible to program physiologically the love response into your body before the person comes into your life? That's all I'm asking. I'm asking, and there is enough research where I can show that. Let's say that when you meditate, let's say research where science is to a point where it says people who meditate, when they hear somebody in trouble, they empathize more, because there is a certain EEG in the brain, which is saying that there's more blood flow going towards the empathy, a cingulate cortex, or anterior cingulate, which is responsible for empathy.
From a business point of view, how is this valuable? There are a lot of people who will say, yeah, I get it, but how is it valuable? You know what? Yeah. You have a boss, you have employees, you have co-workers, you negotiate, you make deals, you do everything with people. And some people have the capacity to melt other people's adversity away. My wife is like that. She's very intuitive. She's not into, and she's logical as well, but mostly intuitive. You know, she has a way with people, and I find that I have to work extra hard to get certain things done, whereas for her, she doesn't have to do anything. It just happens all the time. And I think it has to do with how you are as a person. And how can you change yourself as a person is possible. And that's why this yoga is important to you if you think that your only goal is money and love. Right? And so that's why this is powerful. Now, I want to say something. This only introduces people to these ideas that these are possibilities that exist. Otherwise, we sometimes don't even think that these possibilities exist. And it is within your reach. If you did a little bit of exploration into yoga, I'm not asking a type A personality to all of a sudden try to become like the left, as I call them, the mushy left wing, ultra liberal women. You know, you don't have to. I talked with a worldwide WWF 3 times wrestler, very well-known fellow by the name Diamond Dallas. He's into yoga. So I think all I am asking with this exploration is to say, look, there is something out there that a lot of people are not aware of, and they give up even before they explore the possibility. I'm not saying that we believe in the idea that through yoga you can attract a partner. Don't believe anything. You should not believe anything. You should question.
Yes.
But at least question. If you don't question, answer will never be there, because you never questioned.
And so your question is, how do we use this in business, in money, so in company?
The love, when you say, most people will say love means, the opposite. Well, I wouldn't say that, but romantic love. But when you talk about love, while it may appear to be romantic, because that's what most people are attracted to as a concept, but when you're talking about love, you're talking about the ability to connect with people.
Okay, very simple. Now, number one, it's all about connecting with yourself. And without getting into too much of the spiritual woo-woo, you just need to feel good about yourself. Really, it really just comes down to that. So your first step, irrespective of who you are, whether you're a spiritual person, you are working in a corporate world, you just need to feel good about yourself first. And people don't understand that. People don't think that they can change and make themselves feel good about themselves. Only in probably the last 40, 50 years, even exercise has been part of the culture. Because people say, okay, hey, I do 30 minutes of cardio and I'm going to have enough endorphins for the next 8 hours. I'm feeling great. That's awesome.
Yeah,
their situations in life remain the same, but just because they feel great, they look at life differently.
Absolutely. It's like one example sometimes I give is, for some people, they may not like their partner and they may hate that woman or a man. And there may be 3 people standing in line who absolutely love that person.
Right.
The truth is the person is the same.
Exactly.
To the stimuli that is different.
Yes. So the situations are always neutral. It's our response to stimuli, as you said. Okay. So now the question comes, what do I do within myself so that my response to stimuli is of the highest quality? And what does it mean, highest quality? So that I can feel well, happy, content, and calm under stress all the time.
Really, and in doing so, you will perform your best.
Yes.
And therefore, you might change the situation.
Yes.
But it might not change. That's a different story. But you would have given your best.
Yes. And you would have changed your perception of the situation.
Correct.
It always starts with us. It's never about the outside. Once you start changing your perception and know that I'm flexible like a bamboo will bend with the wind but can never break. We always say that in meditation. So once we train the mind to be flexible and so have just a little bit of perspective difference, things will look different and things will start improving.
And to give a very specific example, is a standard Indian example that you're aware of as well, is when you see in the dark a rope and you think that's a snake. You freak out, right?
Yes.
And if you knew it was a rope, your perspective will change. And assume it was a snake and you think it's a rope and you say, never mind, the snake might just slither away. Yes. And life goes happily ever after.
Right. And the next thing where I think meditation can help is our life is based on second-to-second decision. Every second we are forced by life to make decisions. I think so. That's why I think decision making is probably one of the most, which leads into judgment, quality of judgment. Is probably the key quality which is needed, whether in the corporate world or whether in business, doing anything, entrepreneurship, whatever. And how are you going to do that? And so what yoga is saying is, hey, potentially there is a mechanism by which you can get better at decision making.
Absolutely, absolutely. And to clarify a little bit, it's basically saying your car is finely tuned, it's performing well, it's not missing a spark plug or a bad spark plug. That's the central idea. If your car is a Yugo, it's not going to become a Ferrari.
Yes.
But Yugo has its own purpose.
Right.
And if you focus yourself on your own purpose, as we like to call Swabhav, you will succeed. Everybody doesn't have to be a basketball player. You may be a football person. You don't have to be a basketball player because it's scripted that basketball players, blah, blah, blah. So you choose to do that. But the truth is, you may have other talents that you will explore and be incredibly successful. Napoleon would have never made a great basketball player.
Yeah.
I would presume, right? But he is or was whatever he was, right?
Right.
So the point here is yoga will help you be who you are and possibly be the very best you can be with a fine-tuned mechanism.
Yeah, and to say it, I think Tagore, one of the great Indian authors, he said, spirituality is nothing but the elevation of creative potential. Right. And I thought that was so beautifully said. And we all, after a point, as you know that you start getting creative, and now there is science. Oh, sorry. There's a lot of science to show. You can hear me okay, right?
Yeah, I can.
There's a lot of science to show that people in the alpha state are very creative.
Yes.
And as you start meditating, it's all about growing your creative ability. And once you start growing your creative ability, you'll start performing better with people. You'll start performing better in business.
In problem solving, absolutely. And you know what I'd like to say is that in business, people are always looking for trends. Those who identify the trends in advance tend to leverage the trends, tend to benefit from the trends and succeed, right?
Right.
There is a trend on yoga. There is enough evidence that it is the right thing to do. I hope that people learn the lessons in one way or the other and find reasons to question more and identify and learn, make efforts to learn more about what yoga really is and benefit from it. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Nick. It's been a pleasure. It's been a joy.